What's missing in your life? Whether you're consciously aware of the effects of trauma on your life right now, chances are that there's something missing. And this just might be it. Hi, my name is Valerie. I'm an intuitive energy and spiritual healer, and I help people transform their lives from surviving the effects of childhood trauma into thriving. I've done it myself, and proof positive that you can do it too. There are three ways of being present in your life. When we come into life, we are perfect little beings and fully integrated. We're whole, we're perfect, and we're complete. And then life happens. And whether you are consciously aware of traumatic events that have significantly shaped your life or not, just the everyday run-of-the-mill traumas that we all encounter, what happens is we begin to fracture, we begin to split apart. And there are three basic ways of being present in life, and chances are that you have leaned into one of those three as your comfort zone. You've heard of body, mind, spirit, but what does that really mean? It's the threefold nature of reality. We can approach this from the traditional Christian religious concept of the Trinity. When they talk about the Trinity as Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, or Spirit, they're really talking about the Father, which is the divine mind and creative source, the Son, which was the embodiment of that in a human life on earth, and the Holy Spirit, which is the Spirit itself. Each one of us is made up of aspects of body, mind, and spirit. And throughout the course of life, especially if you've experienced trauma, each one of us has one of those three realms that we tend to retreat to. It's our safe place. It's where we feel most comfortable. For many people, this is body, especially in our culture with its emphasis on the material and material success and the physical body. I need to take a little moment here and describe more fully what I mean by body. Body is, and I'm not just talking about my body, your body, but the body of existence, the physical realm, the realm of matter, the material world. Our culture in the United States is so focused on the material, almost to the exclusion of everything else. The second field or realm of expression or being is the intellectual, the mental or the mind aspect. This would probably take second place in our culture. There are many people that are living mostly in the realm of thought, the realm of mind, the realm of ideas, and especially for trauma survivors, the body's not a generally very safe place to be, so we tend to retreat into our heads. And that is exactly what I did. If you've watched any of my videos, I don't need to go into the details again, but I experienced quite a bit of trauma at a very early age. And so at a very early age, I learned that in my head was the safest place to be. I then went on to grow up to become a teacher, an educator, all about thinking and knowing. Not only that, but I was also a scientist. My background's in biology. So I was very much locked into the cerebral. So there's the material realm, there's the cerebral realm, and then there's the ethereal realm. This is probably the least common realm of retreat for trauma survivors or people in their lives as they go through the hardships of life, but some people do retreat to that. I have a couple of people I can think of off the top of my head that are literally so wrapped up in the ethereal, in the spirit realm, in the metaphysical being, that they practically live in a trance state, and very, very great difficulty being in the physical world or even being in the mental world. So which one are you? For me, like I said, it was a retreat to the intellectual, the cerebral realm, and I lived that way for most of my life. But eventually, because I wasn't inhabiting my body, I wasn't connected to what was going on in my body, it started to break down. And so it was problems in my body. Mostly for me, it was my feet and ankles. But that's what led me to start having to pay attention to the material realm more. I started looking for alternative modalities of healing, which for me at the time, I was in very rural, remote northern Minnesota. The closest I could come to a holistic healer was a chiropractor. Fortunately, I managed to find a chiropractor who was very holistic. And holistic means body, mind, and spirit. So she knew that in order to work with my body and helping me to heal and inhabit my body, the mental realm was my area of comfort, was my area of where I basically resided. She worked to appeal to that part of me, and I did a lot of reading. I did a lot of reading about different modalities and ways of healing and different approaches of nutrition, and started taking a lot of supplements. And so it was a crisis in my body. I actually wound up having a surgery, which is what led me to this healer. That is how I began to reintegrate body and mind. And that took a couple of years as I started to bring that more into balance. I had a spiritual awakening and kind of a mental breakdown that then, so it was my body breaking down that led my mind to start to heal my body. But it wasn't until my mental reality, my mind broke when I had this spiritual awakening and this nervous breakdown, that I wound up hospitalized for a better part of a year and doing really deep internal work, that I finally, it was even a year after that, that I finally really started to realize that what was missing was the spiritual. And so now I have this much better grasp on the idea of what body, mind, spirit means. You come into the world and you're perfect, whole, and complete. Life happens and we get split off into one of these three aspects of being. The key piece for healing from trauma, from the effects of life, everyday trauma, and fracturing of our beings, is to integrate all three of these back into perfect wholeness. How do you do that? That's what I do. That's my calling in life. I was able to discover through my spiritual seeking and taking a lot of classes, again, doing a lot of reading and doing a lot of body work, that I began to realize that it's an important thing to focus on what's your weakness. Where are you weakest? Is it in your body? Is it in the mental realm, or is it in the spiritual? And to use all the tools you can possibly find in each of those areas together to synthesize and reintegrate all these parts, all these aspects of who you are. I want to go a little deeper on this, and I hope I don't get too esoteric for you, but I've been talking about on the personal level, body, mind, and spirit. I want to talk more now on the larger scale of the nature of existence. We're so locked into our material realm, and with scientific thought taking the forefront in our culture, that we pretty much think that if we can't perceive it with our senses, if we can't see it and measure it and quantify it, that it is not real. And this has been a fallacy for eons. I want to go all the way back to the ancient Greek philosopher Plato. He used an allegory to try to address this idea, or as Shakespeare said just several hundred years ago, there is more to heaven and earth, Horatio, than is dreamt of in your philosophies. There's more to reality than the physical things that we can see. I brushed up against this as a science teacher, and I remember trying to get kids to grasp this idea that what looks solid is not solid. Solid is a term that we have coined to describe the sensation of when we put these things up against each other, they don't move through each other, they don't move together. It's an interaction on a quantum level. It's chemical, it's magnetic, it's energetic. But if you could zoom in with the highest microscope onto, say, a piece of marble and look within it, you would see that there are atoms, and the atoms don't exactly completely overlap or touch or come together. There's spaces in between them. And then if you could somehow have an even higher power microscope and zoom into one of those atoms, you would see that most of the atom itself is empty space. And then zoom in even further to one of the subatomic particles within the nucleus of the atom, and you would see that there's these quantum particles that aren't even particles. They're not particles, they're not things as we conceptualize and think of things. When it comes down to it, it's all energy. That is the nature of reality. We live within these biological organisms, these meat machines, for lack of a better word, that have sensory perception. And we assume that what our senses tell us, to us, that is real. But there is much, much more. Going back to Plato. Plato had his allegory of the cave. He used, of course, now we're going back several thousand years. He used a metaphor that people of that time could relate to, and that was the idea of a shadow show. It's kind of like a puppet show, but if you use a light source, and then you have your puppets, and then you have a screen, and the people who are observing the show are looking at a screen in front of them. Say they're in a cave and they're looking at the wall of the cave, and that's all they can see, that's all they can perceive. Behind them is this puppet show, these figures that are moving and acting out and doing things. And behind that, outside the cave in the distance, is a fire. The light from the fire shines onto the puppet figurines, which cast a shadow on the wall of the cave. The allegory is that we are like those people looking at these shadows on the wall. And because that is all that our senses can perceive, we assume that that's all there is. But there's really much, much more going on. This is the realm of the philosopher and the metaphysician to try to understand the deeper truth. There's so much more to reality than just your body. And there's so much more to healing than just taking pills or having a therapy on your body, or just your mind. Like you can probably, I don't know, maybe heal your body by just going to a therapist. It's going to help. But what you really got to do is you've got to do it all. The one key is actually 3 keys. You need to approach healing from trauma and becoming whole with all 3 aspects. For myself right now, I'm doing pretty good. I've been on a healing journey for over 10 years. And currently at this moment, for my body and to help me be in my body and live in the physical material realm, I do yoga. I'm getting chiropractic care, and I also do daily grounding and body scans. So some of the tools that I'm using right now. There's many more tools, but those are the ones I'm focusing on right now. Different times call for different things, and it's constantly changing. For my mental care, I see a therapist regularly. I journal, I read, and I use affirmations. For spiritual care, I'm a religious science practitioner, so I routinely pray for myself and for others. I'm also an energy and spiritual healer, so I do healing work on myself, for family and friends, and for clients. That is an energetic and spiritual practice that I engage in regularly. And I'm also a person that meditates daily. So I have multiple tools in each of these 3 fields that I use simultaneously. No one of these is going to be the silver bullet that's going to fill in the missing pieces of my life. And so this wanted to share with you today is that if you feel like there's something missing in your life, there probably is. And you can look at these 3 areas of your life and see, where's your default? Are you defaulting into the brain like I used to? Are you defaulting into the material world like the majority of Americans probably do? Or are you one of those rare creatures that retreats into the spiritual and so out in the angelic ethereal realms that you can't come down to earth and have a physical impact and make things happen in the world? Whichever one it is, you can identify and start using tools to bring those 3 fields, those 3 aspects of existence into wholeness. Well, that's all I have for today. I hope you found this interesting. If you are interested in learning more, there's a whole bunch of stuff on my website. On the main page, I talk much more about my personal healing journey in each of the 3 aspects: body, mind, and spirit. And I'd really appreciate your feedback. You can leave a comment down below or look me up. And either way, I look forward to seeing you next time. Peace. Hey friends, just one more thing I wanted to add real quick. In addition to a link to my website that I'll put down in the top of the description box, I have an event coming up on the 28th of this month. It's the Saturday of Halloween weekend, and it is an evening of, it's kind of like a mini psychic fair. We've got readers and healers, and it's going to be really fun. It's right here in Encinitas, California. So if you're in the area, scroll down to the bottom of the description box and I will leave information there. And I hope to see you then. Have a great rest of your day.